Hello guys, welcome back to another amazing video. In this video I'll be going over how I repair and smooth backdrop in Photoshop. I'll be working on a cloth backdrop and also a paper backdrop, so feel free to stay tuned. But before we continue, my name is Benoit, and on this channel I talk about what it's like being a creative, the struggles and challenges that we face, and your subscription will be very helpful to me. So feel free to click on that subscribe button and the notification bell as well. Let's hop in. Yeah, so the very first step I do when I have a photo and I want to smooth the backdrop, I first of all duplicate the layer. Next thing I do is try to separate the subjects from the backdrop. So clicking on this option, I do select subject. Photoshop helps me make a quick selection of the subject. It doesn't look perfect, so I'll try and make some adjustments, trying to get everything. Yeah, so this is a very rough selection of the subject. So next thing I do is I click on select and max, and the only way you can actually get to any of these options is if you have selected any of the selection tools. So these are your selection tools here. 1, 2, 3. You have the marquee tools, you have the lasso and the lasso tools, and you have this quick selection magic wand tools. So it's only if these selections are open that you can see this. So after clicking on select and max, I've already made some settings here, so but just assuming yours is down to 0, you have to make adjustments to the point where your selection is just a tad bit, a few inches away from your subject, so you can get the brain of the subject without cutting into the subject or anything. And you do that by adjusting the feather, the edge, the contrast, and the smoothness. Make sure you preview all this to make a very clean selection, so and make sure all the edges are showing intact. So when you're done, click on OK. Now you double click, they have your cut. Now you have your separate background. Take it below the subject, turn off the subject, turn off the background. Now you can work on the background itself. So another tool that really helps me, because the majority of the time you wouldn't really be able to see what you're doing and you might not get a perfect selection or whatever. So what really helps me is the invert check layer. So now it doesn't look so visible, so sometimes it's very visible, but to make it more visible, I bring in a levels layer. I mean, this doesn't happen all the time, so it doesn't seem like this is a very stressful part of the process. No, it's not always like this, but if you really need to get absolutely good results, you really need to go in this way. So sometimes I turn them off and I work on it like that, but at this point I need my invert check layer to really see what I'm doing. So yeah, let me hop in, working on the backdrop. So now what you're really doing is you're using the lasso tool. Let me turn it off, it's confusing now. You're using the lasso tool to make a selection of the errors in the backdrop, and the errors are the hard lines and the crooked areas, all the errors on the backdrop. This is cloth backdrop, by the way, it's not paper, that's why it's really rumpled in a bit, but I think it looks cool. When it has this sort of, I don't know, what do I call it? Still looks cool though. So I made my first selection. Let's see what content that it does. So yeah, I think that's looking good. I also need to remove this. Oh yeah, so this to this, turn this one. This. Alright. Alright, so it's looking good. Alright, it's looking nice, but if you notice, there's still a whole lot of rumpled area. That's the reason why we separated the backdrop from the subject, because we want to properly work on the backdrop without affecting the subject. So I turn this off, I turn both of them off and I use my mixer brush tool. I also turn on my invert layer. And you know, just like you're smoothing something, but you don't want to be destructive about this. So you already noticed that, let me turn this off, you already noticed that the cloud backdrop has some lines and contours that make it look very, very natural. You really don't want to ruin this by spoiling this. So what you do is, where the contours are, where the gathering of the shadows are, that's where you smoothen. You see that the line is coming this way, so I have to use a mixer brush tool this way, try to make some. If I'm painting like this, it's really gonna ruin it, so I have to follow the trend, follow the lines, and just paint over it. I turn this on, and I notice that I'm only painting on the arrows. You can't start painting everywhere, because if you paint everywhere, yeah, you're going to ruin the whole thing, and it's not gonna look nice anymore. It's going to start looking very, very, very artificial. So I'm only there for the wrong poor parts, the parts that I feel are not cool. You really don't need to worry about spilling into the subject. It's gonna be behind, but try not to do too much. You're only looking at the backdrop and only the notable parts. That's why we needed to take our time and remove all the blemishes so it doesn't ruin it. So let's check it out. This is the before, this is the after. Before, after, before, after, before, after. Still gonna touch up on some areas just to make it look nice. Okay, so that's a very, very non-destructive way of how you can repair backdrop. This is a cloud backdrop. Let's try out another example. So this is the second backdrop I'll be editing. This is a paper backdrop. You can see that this is way more complicated than the previous one, but let's try to fix it. First thing I'm going to do is duplicate this layer so I can work on it. So I'm going to use my lasso tool and draw around the area that I want to replace. So let's do it safe. Yeah. Apologies, I don't have straight hands. Alright, I'll get this here. Yeah, alright. Good. Okay. So what I want to do is click on edit, and I'm going to click on contour aware fill. So this is sort of like a preview of where it is going to copy data from to fill up the spaces that we selected. This is where it's picking up the pixels from, and this is the replacement. So I'm going to try and take out the subject from this selection so that it can make a better replacement. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just need to just take it away from the subject and any other thing that you wouldn't want replaced. I mean, it still doesn't look perfect, but let's work with it. Adaptation, high. Alright, so we click on OK. Alright, so this created a new layer for me. So what I'll do now is I will merge this layer and this layer so it becomes one. You still have our original layer here, so let's fix this. Let's fix this some more and try and get a more accurate selection for content aware. So this is like an automatic selection for content aware. Alright, so I'm gonna fix this further. Doing this. Alright, it's looking good. It's looking weird. So we'll be able to take out all these other things from the backdrop, and now we need to fix the backdrop properly. So the next thing I'm going to do is click here, select subject. scratch that. The next thing I'm going to do now is click here, right click object selection tool, and I'll click on this layer. I'll click here on this subject. Make sure that this option is toggled on. It means that you can select several other options. If you have just this, it's just one selection per click, but with this you can select others. So I've selected that. Select this, select this, select the vase as well. Looking great. So I'll now go back to my quick selection tool because it's not a perfect selection yet. I'll fix this in. I can actually use my lasso tool, so much better. I'll fix this in. Same thing here. Same thing. And then like the edges of the vase, so I'll just let it be. What else? Yeah, right here. Great. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this selection by clicking on select at the top menu here, modify, expand it by 10. Yeah, it's looking good. So now I'm going to cut the subject out, layer via cut. Great. So we have the subject on a separate layer. We also have the backdrop on a separate layer. So I'll turn off the background layer, turn off the subject. Now let's properly work on this backdrop. So my non-destructive way of working on the backdrop is by using a mixer brush tool, and one tool that really assists me with this is the invert check layer. So I'll turn it on, and sometimes it's not so visible, so I let broader levels assist me. So I'll take this down so I can see all the errors more clearly. Then I'll go put up them. To be honest, the only reason I'm even renaming this just because this is a tutorial. I will just flow. Anyway, so working on the backdrop now. So the idea of a mixer brush tool is to create a smooth transition between the shadows and the highlights. So we want to make that smooth transition between both of them. So when I mixer brush tool, I'll click on the backdrop and I'm just going to start painting over. I don't want to paint this way. Rather, I want to go with the trend. You can see that it is sort of like a circular motion. So I'm going to go circular with it. And make sure I'm just going to smoothen out that transition between both of them. So I'll paint over here as well. You can already start seeing changes. And I don't want to drag the brush across the whole backdrop because that's you creating errors. But there are points in the backdrop where there's a lot of harsh transitions between the shadows and the highlights. So places like here, it's really needed. So I'm going to take my time and paint over here. This way the backdrop stays natural, and it doesn't look disruptive at all. So I think this looks good. Let's see what we've done now. I mean, it isn't looking bad at all. Yeah, then that's it. Let me just a little thing here. So you know that you're working on just the backdrop right now. If the backdrop and the subject were in one layer, trust me, it wouldn't be this smooth. So here you have it. We've taken this backdrop from, let me group this, but taking this backdrop from this to this just by using the mixer brush tool and our invert check layer. So that's it. Now you can work on the image. So we've come to the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this helpful, if you found this good, please like, subscribe if you haven't, or let me know in the comment section. Until my next video, see you. Take care. Keep it 100. Psych.